Please come to order. Those persons not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber at this time, and all members and guests in the galleries will please rise this morning as we are led in prayer by Pastor Rabbi Victor Urecki.
Almighty God, Thank you for this opportunity to be as one in your eyes as this session begins. For just a moment, we are with you, and we can leave the tension, the anger, the shouting, and remember we are neither Republican nor Democrat, but citizens of an inspiring country, all part of the same family known as humanity, together, united in one chamber, all elected to be servants of the great people of this state. And yet we are also strangely solitary in your presence right now. Each of us comes here with personal worries and concerns. Each of us rises to speak, carrying personal hopes and dreams. Each of us has constituents like no one else in this body. Each of us has ideas and visions for the future like no one else in this room. Each of us feels joys and responsibilities no one else knows. Each of us also has challenges and fears no one else should know. And so as this session begins, we turn to you. If we grow fearful of our tasks, give us strength. If we become discouraged, give us hope. If we forget our humanity and how we are to treat each other, remind us. If we become careless of our words and actions, forgive us. And if our hearts ever become chilled and we forget those in our state who desperately need us to work together for them, warm our hearts with your goodness and inspire us. Teach us to work together as one for the most needy, the most marginalized, the most vulnerable in our state. Amen.
All members and guests will please remain standing this morning for the posting of the colors by Corporal Leonard Barnett, Captain Richard Toney, and Lieutenant Bobby Berry from the Division of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Gentleman, the 43rd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please join me as we honor our country. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members and guests may be seated. Reading the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Charleston, Thursday, January 23rd, 2020.
The gentleman of the 58th, Dr. Coles.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and to be approved as having been read.
The gentleman of the 58th asks unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? The chair hears no objections. Introduction of guests. Introduction of guests. The gentleman of the 48th, Doug Queen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are joined today in the gallery by a few other queens. Hailing from Clarksburg, Miss West Virginia Teen USA, a senior at Notre Dame High School, Sophia Martino, and she is also joined in the gallery by Miss West Virginia USA, Charlotte Balott from Martinsburg. She currently works in Washington under Senator Manchin. If the House would please make them feel welcome.
The gentleman in the 6th, Doug Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. In the South Gallery, accompanying my beautiful wife, Jan, are some family members I'd like to introduce you to. My son, John, my grandson, John Wesley, my daughter, Janae, her husband, Mitch, their son, Spencer, son, Maddox, granddaughter, Belle, and Rich and Anita Corley. Would the House make them feel welcome today, please?
The gentleman in the 44th, Doug HANNA.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us today in the West Gallery, I have some guests here from Nicholas County High School for the Women and Girls Day at the Legislature. If they would please stand when I call their name. Riley Butcher, Olivia Short, and Galilea Villasenor. If the House would please make them feel welcome.
The gentleman in the 24th, Doug Tomblin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of myself and Delegate Roddy Garrio, I would like to introduce a page of ours today, Hillary Gore, who is a National Honor Student at Logan Middle School. Hillary is a stroke survivor, which led her to be an advocate and fundraiser for the American Heart Association. Joining her today was her mother, Amber Miller, in the West Gallery, who is the city manager for the city of Logan and the founder of the OKS Moms Club of West Virginia and a federal advocate of adult use and medical cannabis. She's also a board member of the Municipal League. Would the House please make them welcome?
The gentleman in the 35th, Doug Scaff.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of my colleagues from the 35th District, today we have 34 young ladies from Dunbar Middle School with us today up in the galleries. They're here on behalf of Women's and Girls Day at the Legislature. If we could all stand and make them recognized, that would be fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman in the 19th, Doug Hicks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Robbie Thompson and myself, I'd like to acknowledge two pages serving with us today, and they are from Buffalo Elementary, and these pages are Riley Blankenship and Carly McSwinney. House, please make them welcome.
The gentleman in the 36th, Doug Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we have a group of pages with us serving from East Bank Middle School. We have Sam Peters, Lexi Estep, Nick Bigler, Colton Dorsey, Isaac Tucker, Caleb Knapp, Casey Kirk, Casey Adamson, Chloe Estep, Brady Dygert, Ella Cook, Ronald Ford, Ayana Newkirk, and Peyton Carney. They are chaperoned by Mrs. Polly and also Caleb's father, Leon Knapp, who I'm told is a great representative of our Federal Credit Union. If the House would make them feel welcome.
The lady in the 51st, Doug Walker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome some students from WVU School of Public Health that's here for Women and Girls Day. Could you ladies please take a stand, and could the House please give them a warm welcome?
The gentleman in the 10th, Doug Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'm proud to have a page from Roane County High School. Zane Tanner, if he would please stand up and welcome him. And I'd also like to welcome his grandfather, Joe Painter, and his mother, Beth Tanner. And if they'd stand up, please, and let's give them a warm welcome. Thank you.
Are there other introductions? If not, report to the gentleman in the 42nd, Delegate Campbell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Lavender Bowe and I, we have two pages today from Eastern Greenbrier Middle School. If they'll stand when I call their name, Sophia Bunch and Brianna Boswell. They're escorted in our South Gallery by Sophia's dad, Rick Leatherman. Will the House please make them welcome?
Are there further introductions? If not, report to standing committees.
Your Committee on Political Subdivisions has had under consideration House Bill 2321, allowing workers' compensation benefits for first responders diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and House Bill 4177, allowing sheriffs to keep electronic copies of receipts for the payment of taxes. Reports the same back with recommendation that each do pass, that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Report will be received. The bills will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Political Subdivisions has had under consideration House Bill 4355, allowing municipalities and counties to post their annual financial statements on the Internet. Reports the same back with amendment, with recommendation that it do pass as amended, that it be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
The report will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 2877, relating to charging a fee for parking in an accessible parking space bearing the international symbol of access. Reports back a committee substitute, therefore, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Finance has had under consideration House Bill 4250, State Conservation Committee Grant Program, House Bill 4251, State Tax Department, Payment of Taxes by Electronic Funds Transfer, House Bill 4331, Racing Commission Thoroughbred Racing, House Bill 4343, State Tax Department, Consumer Sales and Service Tax, and House Bill 4344, State Tax Department, Exchange of Information Pursuant to Written Agreement. Reports the same back with recommendation that each do pass, that they be referred to Committee on Judiciary.
The report will be received. All bills will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 323, authorizing the Department of Administration promulgate legislative rules. Reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration House Bill 2433, modifying the school calendar to begin not earlier than Labor Day and end prior to Memorial Day. Reports back to committee substitute, therefore, with recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse has had under consideration House Bill 4493, relating to age verification requirements for delivery, sales of tobacco. Reports the same back with amendment, with the recommendation that it do pass as amended, that it be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
The report will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration House Bill 4226, Department of Health and Human Resources, Primary Care Seed Money Grants, House Bill 4227, Department of Health and Human Resources, Pilot Program for Drug Screening of Applicants for Cash Assistance, House Bill 4230, Insurance Commission, Pharmacy Auditing Entities and Pharmacy Benefit Managers, House Bill 4279, Department of Health and Human Resources, Public Water Systems, House Bill 4280, Department of Health and Human Resources, Fees for Permits, House Bill 4281, Department of Health and Human Resources, Vital Statistics, House Bill 4282, Department of Health and Human Resources, Emergency Medical Services, House Bill 4283, Department of Health and Human Resources, Primary Care Center Uncompensated Care Grants, House Bill 4284, Department of Health and Human Resources, Medical Cannabis Program General Provisions, House Bill 4285, Department of Health and Human Resources, Medical Cannabis Program Growers Processors, House Bill 4286, Department of Health and Human Resources, Medical Cannabis Program Laboratories, House Bill 4287, Department of Health and Human Resources, Medical Cannabis Program Dispensaries, House Bill 4288, Department of Health and Human Resources, Medical Cannabis Program Safe Harbor Letter, House Bill 4289, Department of Health and Human Resources, collection and exchange of data related to overdoses. House Bill 4290, Department of Health and Human Resources, minimum licensing requirements for residential child care and treatment facilities. House Bill 4291, Department of Health and Human Resources, qualifications for provisional license to practice as a social worker. And House Bill 4292, Health Care Authority, critical access hospitals, reports the same back with recommendation that they each do pass, that they be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
The report will be received. All bills will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Originating in the Committee on Health and Human Resources is House Bill 4543, relating to insurance coverage for diabetics. It's reported with recommendation that it do pass, that it be referred to the Committee on Banking and Insurance.
The report will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Banking and Insurance.
Your Committee on Fire Departments and Emergency Medical Services has had under consideration House Bill 4409, relating to transferring remaining funds from the Volunteer Fire Department Workers' Compensation Premium Subsidy Fund, and House Bill 4429, relating to the distribution of the assets remaining in a municipal fireman's or fireman's pension fund, reports the same back with recommendation that each do pass, that to be referred to the Committee on Finance.
The report will be received. House Bill 4409 will be referred to the Committee on Finance, and pursuant to House Rule 80, House Bill 4429 will be referred to the Committee on Pensions and Retirement, then the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on Fire Departments and Emergency Medical Services has had under consideration House Bill 4030, increasing the age limit of an honorably discharged veteran of the United States Armed Forces or National Guard to 40 years of age. Reports the same back with recommendation that it do pass.
The report will be received.
Your Committee on Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 2419, relating to the authorization to release a defendant or a person arrested upon his or her own recognizance, and House Bill 4438, relating to the licensing of advanced deposit wagering. Reports back committee substitutes, therefore, with recommendation that the committee substitutes each do pass.
The report will be received. Pursuant to House Rule 80, House Bill 4434 will be referred to the Committee on Finance. Are there further 4438 to the Committee on Finance, correct. Are there further reports of standing committees? If not, reports of select committees, messages from the executive, messages from the Senate.
The Clerk of the Senate announces the passage by the Senate of Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 297, requiring Board of Education create Family and Consumer Sciences course.
The message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Education, then the Committee on Finance.
The Senate has adopted Senate Concurrent Resolution 3, United States Army Master Sergeant Richard A. Dick Smoot Memorial Bridge.
And the message will be received. The resolution will be referred to the Committees on Technology and Infrastructure, then Rules. Are there further messages from the Senate? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 31, United States Army Air Corps Private First Class James W. Brown Memorial Bridge.
Lady in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
The lady in the 49th asked unanimous consent that further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Are there objections? The chair hears no objections. Petitions, motions, bills introduced.
House Bill 4523, removing the limitation of number of apprentice hunting and trapping licenses a person may purchase.
Lady in the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and that each bill be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the chamber automation system.
The lady in the 49th asked unanimous consent that further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with, and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Are there objections? The chair hears no objections. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Committee Substitute for Senate Bill 94, providing persons with physical disabilities ability to vote by electronic absentee ballot.
There are objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read. The chair hears no objections. The gentleman from the 35th, CAPITO, to explain the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. The bill that we're about to discuss is a bill that we did discuss a little bit yesterday, and it deals with voting for certain members of the population here in West Virginia and to provide greater accommodations to all voters in the state of West Virginia. Currently in our state, we provide opportunities for our uniformed personnel overseas under the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act to vote electronically, a program that was implemented by the Secretary of State a few years ago and has shown much success. What we are attempting to do with this bill, in concert with certain legal opinions that we have gotten as of late that require the state of West Virginia to provide greater accommodations for certain members with disabilities to vote independently and without assistance. And therefore, what we're doing in the bill before you today is we're providing that opportunity with certain members of our community with disabilities to vote electronically and submit those exactly in the same manner that we're doing currently with members of our uniformed service. This is a good bill. It provides more opportunity for more members of our community to vote, and I would urge its passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? The gentleman is 60th, Douglas Wilson.
Speaker, would the gentleman yield, please?
Yes, gentleman does yield.
Thank you, sir. I just want to clarify something real quick. I'm looking at line 39. It says voting in person, absent uniformed services voter or overseas voter. If I understand that correctly, if a person is a member, if a voter is a member of the military and is stationed within the United States but still is not within West Virginia, they should still be able to vote through this system. Is that correct?
That law would apply in that situation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there other members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? The gentleman, the 27th, Douglas Porterfield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my privilege to be a part of being on this bill today, and I would urge its passage. I would like to thank the hard work and dedication that has went in to making sure that people such as myself, people that are blind, have their constitutional rights put in place here in the great state of West Virginia. This has been done with bipartisan support, with help from the National Federation from the Blind, the American Council of the Blind, the Washington Council on Civil Liberties and Urban Development, the Minority Council, and the dedicated work of our Secretary of State's office, Mac Warner and Deke Kersey. I am grateful to be a part of this today, to be able to vote without assistance from anyone else, and my vote be kept private as someone with a visual impairment and an American with a disability. This moves West Virginia forward and puts us in compliance with constitutional law with these groups working together. I'm grateful for the apolitical or non-political work in this to help make West Virginia a better place to live, work, and to raise a family. I'm very, very grateful for that. I'm also grateful that it's going to be possible, in part because we stopped a bad amendment, to be able to do this in the primary election. When things get political over something like this that is this good, it really is saddening to me. I am grateful to be a part of this. I'm grateful that ableism is being pushed away from, which is discrimination towards people with disabilities, and giving us the constitutional right that is righted to us with our unalienable rights. This is a great day for us. I want to thank the two joint committees on the judiciary with Senator Trump and Chairman Schott for making this possible, and for all of our members that have worked so diligently in putting this together. And I'm very, very grateful that the Secretary of State, under Mac Warner and Deke Kersey's leadership, have made this possible for us to remove this impediment for liberties that are due to people with disabilities. I urge passage. Thank you.
Do other members wish to speak to the passage of the bill? Does the gentleman in the 35th wish to close debate on the bill? If not, the question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 93 ayes, 0 nays, 7 members absent not voting. A majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 94.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill take effect from passage.
The lady from the 49th moves that the bill be made effective from passage. Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 93 ayes, 0 nays, 7 members absent not voting, 2/3 of members elected having voted in the affirmative. The chair declares the bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4002, creating a felony crime relating to drug delivery resulting in death.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? The chair hears no objections. The gentleman, the 29th, Douglas Steele, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everyone. The bill in front of you places in code language which provides additional penalties for certain forms of drug delivery resulting in death. Currently, the law forbids the knowing and willful delivery of a controlled substance or a counterfeit controlled substance in violation of the provisions of West Virginia Code 60A4401 for an illicit purpose and adds penalties described by this section when such delivery results in death. The bill before you the proposed bill before you criminalizes the same behavior for a delivery causing death made without knowledge or willful intent, but due to the reckless disregard of the health, safety, and welfare of others. It would be a lesser penalty in the bill in front of you for the reckless disregard portion, and we urge the bill's passage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 90 ayes, 3 nays, 7 members absent not voting. A majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4002.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate and request concurrence therein. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4393, relating to making suffocation and asphyxiation crimes.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? The chair hears no objections. The gentleman, the 27th, Douglas Schott, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Back in 2016, this House and the Senate, as well as the governor, added a new section to our crimes against the person with respect to strangling. And this was a response to a request from prosecutors that they were ill-equipped to respond appropriately in certain horrendous crimes where individuals were actually grabbed by the throat and basically strangled. And unfortunately, our current code does not provide anything. A battery in that particular horrible situation is not appropriate. Malicious assault is not appropriate because normally it doesn't involve any type of wounding or cuts or stabbing. And it's generally associated with domestic violence, although not all the time. But it is, if you have ever been through that, a horrendous, terrifying experience. So we passed the law and we defined strangling at that time. And this is how it reads now. It's under Code Section 6129D. A person who strangles another without that person's consent and thereby causes that other person bodily injury or loss of consciousness is guilty of a felony, and upon conviction thereof shall be fined not more than $2,500 or imprisoned in a state correctional facility not less than 1 year, no more than 5 years, or both fined and imprisoned. Now I want to make it clear that the bill before you does not add an additional crime, and it does not enhance the penalty of the crime of strangulation. What we're really doing with this bill is refining the scope of the crime to include certain actions that basically have the same adverse effects. So we've added suffocation and asphyxiation, both of which have the same basic effect of interfering with the normal breathing or circulation of the blood. Suffocation is defined as knowingly and willfully restricting the normal breathing or circulation of blood by blocking the nose or mouth of another. And asphyxiate is defined as knowingly and willfully restricting the normal breathing or circulation of blood by the application of pressure on the chest or torso. In other words, these two actions have essentially the same horrible consequence as grabbing someone by the throat and cutting off the flow of air or blood in that circumstance. The penalty is the same for each of these actions. And, Mr. Speaker, that's the summary of the bill. I'm available for questions. I urge its passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there members who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? The gentleman, the 60th, Douglas Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, would you please yield?
Certainly.
Thank you, sir. Why is this bill necessary? And you covered a lot of it, but why is this bill necessary if it's already illegal to assault, to batter, to attempt to murder someone?
Well, the penalties are, what we're trying to respond to is an aggravated situation in which a battery is a misdemeanor. Assault, malicious assault, if you look at the code, basically malicious assault says if any person maliciously shoots, stabs, cuts, or wounds any person, or by any means causes him bodily injury with intent to maim, disfigure, disable, or kill. We basically had requests from prosecutors back when this bill was initially approved simply as strangling, that the penalties that were available in situations that they came upon were wholly inadequate for the type of harm that was inflicted, and more than the physical harm was the emotional harm, the helplessness, the terror that's associated with that type of action. Since that time, there have been other incidents which have the same sort of consequences, but have not fit within the term strangling. For instance, if you might imagine an exceptionally large person, and you're on the floor and they're sitting on your chest, and it's having essentially the same helpless horror that you might not breathe, that would be similar to the same effect as a strangling. Similarly, if somebody came behind you and put a plastic bag over your head and held you to where you could not in any way escape that, the suffocation, asphyxiation type, that would be that. It's the same type of horror, the same type of terror, even though if you got out of that situation, you could not find a mark on your body. Okay, so battery, though, because of the type of terror that act caused you, is really inadequate in that situation because they can't find any cuts or stabs or bullet holes in you as a result of that plastic bag. The malicious assault would not fit. So this really is trying to identify an act that produces such extreme consequences that doesn't fit with anything that we already have. So that's the purpose of adding suffocation and asphyxiation to the strangling section.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman, the 53rd, Delegate Jennings.
Will the chairman yield, please?
Certainly.
The only question I have, since there's no marks or anything, would it get back to he said, she said, as to whether, how are you going to prove?
You'd have the same standard of proof that you would have in any case. If you indict someone for this crime, you'd have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they actually committed the act. And there may not be physical presence, but there may be witnesses. There may be who knows, a security camera footage. There could be any number of things that could be used as evidence. But if it ultimately results in a he said, she said, then it would be up to the jury to make the conclusion as to whether you've proven the crime that you've arrested the person for beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay, because I was just sitting here wondering what would happen if there's no physical marks, nothing to show that anything had happened. Now we're passing a law that, okay, you've got the right to say that, and it just seems like it would be very hard to prove, but now we're putting it in code that's something they can use.
And it may be hard to prove. That's why we require proof beyond a reasonable doubt to deprive somebody of their liberty. But there are other situations where that very same situation could arise in which there is a difficulty in proof, and I'm sure any member here that's prosecuted cases could give you examples of that. But that's the standard, that the person that's accused of that has the benefit of having it had to be proved beyond a reasonable doubt.
So if I put my hand over someone's mouth and nose, how long do I have to hold it there before it's illegal?
Well, it would
have to create
either according to the loss of consciousness or bodily injury before it would fit within this statute.
I'm sorry, I missed that part. I understand now.
Okay.
The gentleman, the 17th, ROHRBACH.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the sponsor of this bill, I'm going to just elaborate just a little bit on the origin of this, and I think that'll help a little bit in this debate. This was brought to my attention by our local prosecutor in Cabell County, and really, this bill, I think you have to think of it like this. Medically, any of the things that the chairman just detailed, you're going to get to the same point, which is you have suffered bodily injury because of deprivation from oxygen. So medically, this is sound legislation, and it really is, as the chairman skillfully related, now 2 of the 3 things that are carved for in this new bill aren't covered as the same penalty as strangulation in our current code. So really all this is doing is bringing up to a new code the different ways to deprive an individual of oxygen, which would result in bodily harm. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there others who wish to speak to the passage of the bill? If not, does the gentleman wish to close debate on the bill? The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result. On this question, there are 93 ayes, 0 nays, 7 members absent, not voting. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4393.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, then the title is read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Request concurrence therein. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4011, reorganizing various boards and authorities for the licensing and oversight of trades, occupations, and professions.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4129, relating to adoption.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4146, relating to credit for reinsurance.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4149, relating to insurance.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4166, prohibiting certain sex offenders from being in a supervisory position over children.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4411, relating to the West Virginia Residential Mortgage Lender, Broker, and Servicer Act.
Are there amendments? If not, the bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on second reading? If not, bills on first reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 2497, relating to the whistleblower law.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4089, requiring cursive writing to be taught.
Bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4365, granting of college credit hours for learning English as a second language.
The bill will be advanced.
House Bill 4480, relating to legislative rules for the Higher Education Policy Commission.
The bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, delegates Byrd, Ellington, Espinoza, Hardy, Kessinger, Little, Spinagle.
Are there objections to leaves being granted? Chair hears no objections. Leaves should be granted. Remarks by members. Remarks by members. Introduction of guests. The gentleman, the 22nd, Doug Jeffries.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to introduce our doctor of the day is Masa Kabirian from Charleston, West Virginia. If the House would make her welcome.
The gentleman, the 44th, Doug HANNA.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have some guests that started out on the Senate side. I don't know if they've had time to make it over yet. But on behalf of myself and the gentleman from the 34th, we have some people here for Women and Girls Day at the Legislature. Batania Gillespie, Kelsey Fields, Michaela Lewis, Olivia Rexroad, and Caitlin Taylor. If the House would make them feel welcome.
Are there additional introductions? Miscellaneous business, lady from the 49th.
Mr. Speaker, I move, subject to announcements, the House adjourn until 11 a.m. Monday.
The question before the House is the motion that the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday, subject to announcements. Are there announcements? The gentleman, the 45th, Doug Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Republican members of your Committee on Government Organization will caucus in the Chairman's office Monday at 3 p.m. in room 213E in the East Wing. And, Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Government Organization will meet Monday, January 27th at 4 p.m. in the House Government Organization Committee room 215 in the East Wing. The agenda will be posted.
Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Rules will meet at 10:45 a.m. on Monday behind the chamber.
The gentleman in the 35th, Dr. Capito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Committee on the Judiciary will meet Monday morning at 9:30 in the committee room, and the agenda for that meeting will be posted.
The gentleman in the 13th, Dr. Higginbotham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Education will meet Monday, January 27th at 3 p.m. in the Education Committee room, and the agenda is posted.
The gentleman in the 13th, Dr. CADLE.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Agriculture and Natural Resources will meet Monday afternoon at 1 o'clock in the Judicial Committee room, and an agenda has been posted. Thank you.
The gentleman in the 32nd, Dr. Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The subcommittee meeting on House Bill 2961, previously scheduled for Monday, January 27th, will not take place. It will be announced later when it will take place. Thank you.
The gentleman in the 12th, Dr. Westfall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two announcements. First, your Committee on Banking and Insurance will meet Monday, January 27th at 1 o'clock p.m. in the GovOrg room. The agenda has been posted. The second announcement, your Joint Committee for the Intern Program will meet today at 1 o'clock and 2:52. The members of that committee are myself, Delegate Dean, Delegate Foster, Delegate Rogerio, and Delegate Rowe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman in the 28th, Delegate Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday at 10:30 here in the well of the chamber, there will be a citation presentation for students that participate in youth in government. These are officers that have been elected from across the state from a variety of high schools, and they will be here to receive their citation. And I wanted to mention this. There are students from the following high schools: James Monroe, Point Pleasant, John Marshall, Lewis County, Buchanan, UPSHUR, Wirt County, and Martinsburg. All of these, the students from these schools have been invited. I have not confirmed that they will all be here, but if any of those high schools happen to be in your district, I would like to extend the invitation for you to come and be with these kids when they get their citation presented to me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman in the 35th, Dr. Nelson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next Thursday, the University of Charleston's championship soccer team will be recognized here. All the Kanawha County members will be on that resolution, but I would like to ask if there's any University of Charleston or Morris Harvey grad to raise their hand so that they can be included on the resolution. Or how about just getting with me so we can get that done? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there other announcements? If not, the question before the House is the motion that the House stand adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. The ayes barely have it. The Chair declares the motion adopted. The House is adjourned until 11 a.m. on Monday.
Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. All those not having privileges of the floor will please vacate the chamber. And with those on the floor and our guests in the gallery, please rise as we are led in prayer this morning by Rabbi Joshua Leaf of Temple Shalom in Wheeling, West Virginia. And then please remain standing as we are led in the pledge this morning by the senator from Monroe County, Rabbi Leaf.
Lord our God, we give thanks to you for our many blessings, for health and hope, for comfort and community, for faith and freedom. We pray for wisdom and discernment for these, our elected officials and their many staff members, that they may lead our state towards justice and prosperity for all of its citizens. On this day, recognizing the important work of our Corrections Department and all of its officers and officials, we are mindful of the words of the prophet Ezekiel, that you, O Lord, do not wish for the death of sinners, but that they should turn from their evil ways and live. Incarceration must not only be about punishment for the guilty, it must also offer an opportunity for human beings to learn from their mistakes and to attempt to make repentance. In Hebrew, we call this teshuvah, from the word meaning turning. Just as for those who have broken the law, so too for all of us. For none of us is perfect, and each of us has room to grow. Help us, O forgiving God, to have compassion for our fellow human beings, even when they have transgressed. Help us, O merciful God, to turn back from where we've gone wrong and to return to the path of doing what's right. Help us, O inspiring God, that when we stumble and fall, we might rise again, ready to learn from our mistakes and thereby to grow both wiser and stronger. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ohev tzedakah u'mishpat v'rotzeh b'tshuvah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who loves righteousness and justice and wants to help us to do better. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi. Senator from Monroe County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will our guests in the gallery and the members on the floor join with me in reciting the pledge? I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Reading of the journal.
West Virginia Legislature, Senate Journal, January 23rd, 2020. The Senate met at 11:07 a.m. Senator
The
Carmichael.
senator from Pleasance County requests unanimous consent that further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Introduction of guests. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome our honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized when your name is called. As guest of the senator from Braxton County, we have Jamie Yoder. As guest of the senator from Harrison County, we have Bennett Liu, Tia Rhodes, and Olivia Marshall. And as guest of the junior senator from the 17th, Anna Blevins, Cameron Blevins, Savannah Blevins, and Ryle Blevins. They're all standing in the front. If the Senate would give them a warm welcome. Thank you. You may be seated. Further introductions? The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is on behalf of the Senate, certainly my pleasure and yours, to introduce our doc of the day. The West Virginia Academy of Family Practice in the rear of their chamber is that we have with us Dr. Kabarian. If she wouldn't mind standing, let the Senate give you a warm welcome.
Further introductions. The senator from Wetzel County.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are honored to have with us today. So on behalf of the senator from Braxton, the senator from Harrison County, I didn't want to mess that up for sure, and the senator from Marshall County, I would like to introduce some Girl Scouts that are with us today in the Senate gallery, joining us for Women's and Girls Day, as well as celebrating the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote. Please welcome Scout leaders Marissa Fox and Alicia Martin, along with Troop 32-394 and Troop 10-123, Kendra Fox, Kaylee Martin, Bella Grijalva, Hannah Stump, and Chloe Peggs. They're in the rear gallery. Please make them welcome.
The senator from Braxton County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's your honor, as well as mine and the junior senator from Harrison County, to introduce the parents of our page, Jamie Yoder. Mary Armentrout, if she'd stand, the Senate make her welcome.
Senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor and yours, sir, as well as my senior senator, to introduce some additional pages we have today. As you can tell, Senator Facemeyer and I enjoy providing our local students the opportunity to come down here and watch the workings of their government. Being nice enough to bring their children down today is Brian and Kelly Rhodes, who are the parents of Tia Rhodes, and Haitao Liu, who is the father of Bennett Liu,
and Heather Marshall, who is the mother of Olivia Marshall. Please stand and let the Senate make you feel welcome.
Further introductions, the senator from Nicholas County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the senior senator and I would like to welcome to Women's and Girls Day here at the Legislature from Nicholas County High School, Shala Lusk, and if they'll stand as I announce their name, Mary Nutter, advisors. The students are Adrian Bounds, Riley Butcher, Kenley Epperly, Michaela Garcia, Rebecca Hypes, Maria Lawson, Abigail Lucas, Robin Molinox, Olivia Parker, Olivia Short, Chloe Sparks, Galilea Villasenor. Also from Richwood High School, advisors Batania Gillespie, Kayla Thomas, and students Kelsey Fields, Michaela Lewis, Olivia Rexroad, and Caitlin Taylor. If the Senate would make them welcome, please.
The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my senior senator from the 17th, we have the parents of 4 of our pages, Anna, Cameron, Savannah, and Ra's parents, Ernie and Lisa Blevins. I'm not sure where, but yeah, there you are. If you wouldn't mind standing, let's Senate give you a warm welcome.
Are there further introductions? Further introductions. Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of committee substitute for House Bill 4058 relating to pharmacy benefit managers.
Message be received and referred to Committee on Health and Human Resources.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4275 authorizing Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety promulgate legislative rules relating to the Fire Commission.
Message be received and referred to Committee on the Judiciary. Further communications from the House?
No, sir.
Communications from the Executive?
There are none.
Reports from standing committees?
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration Senate Bill 209, repealing annexation by minor boundary adjustment, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration Senate Bill 241, requiring State Board of Education develop method for student transportation costs as standalone consideration, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Patricia Puertas Rucker, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Economic Development has had under consideration Senate Bill 505 relating to urban renewal acquisition of property, and reports back to committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on Government Organization. Respectfully submitted, Chandler Swope, Chair.
Report will be received. Under the bill's original double committee reference will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 2696, creating an additional index system for state-owned lands, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4020, removing authority of municipalities to require occupational licensure if licensure for the occupation is required by the state, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received, referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Health and Human Resources has had under consideration engrossed House Bill 4103 relating to Office of Drug Control Policy, and has amended same, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass as amended. Respectfully submitted, Michael J. Maroney, Chair.
Report will be received.
Your Committee on Government Organization has had under consideration engrossed House Bill 4130 relating to competitive bidding for government construction contracts arising out of declared states of emergency, and has amended same, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass as amended. Respectfully submitted, Mark R. Maynard, Chair.
Report will be received.
That's all I have, sir.
Reports from select committees?
There are none.
Introduction of bills. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 607 through 623 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
The junior senator from the 17th requests unanimous consent that Senate Bills number 607 through 623 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none, so ordered. Resolutions.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 10 by Senator Rucker requesting study of current West Virginia laws relating to anti-bullying measures in schools.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 11 by Senator Rucker asking Congress call convention for proposing amendments to impose fiscal restraints on federal government.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Resolution 16 by Senator Beach recognizing 75th anniversary of liberation of Auschwitz and creation of International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Resolution 17 by Senator Unger recognizing leadership Berkeley.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day. Are there further resolutions?
No, sir.
Motions? Petitions?
There are none.
Unfinished business.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 9 naming the U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Nick P. Marcos Memorial Bridge.
Resolution will be referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure.
Senate Resolution 13 designating January 24th, 2020 as Women's and Girls Day.
The senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be put upon its adoption.
Senior senator from the 17th, I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 13 designating January 24th, 2020 as Women's and Girls Day at the Legislature.
The question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? The senior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of the resolution today. And what a wonderful year it is to celebrate the accomplishments of women in this country as we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, the women's right to vote. We're very blessed in this country to have had several women who have made significant accomplishments and progress in this country, including Susan B. Anthony, Rosa Parks, and our own Katherine Johnson. And as we continue to celebrate women, it's nice that we have 3 women in this chamber, but it'd be a lot nicer if we had more. 3 is better than 2 or 1, but it would certainly be nicer if we had more women serving in this chamber. And particularly, we have the senator from Pleasants who's been here, I think, since 1985, and what a great accomplishment that's been for her to be here as long as she has and to serve as long as she has. So as I stand in support of this resolution today, Mr. President, I would encourage everyone to consider the significance of the 19th Amendment as we honor that in this 100th year of the celebration of that and the accomplishments of women in this state and this country, and I urge support of the resolution.
Is there further discussion? The senator from Harrison County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take this opportunity because it's an easy resolution to get up and support. Only when we all treat each other equally and fairly is there ever going to be peace in our state, our country, and our world. I do want to take this opportunity to say that the final state has ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, which was passed in 1970, and which this state ratified at the time it was passed some 40, 50 years ago. There's a new resolution being introduced that urges Congress to accept the final state ratifying that to finally declare equal rights for both men and women in our country, and I hope everyone will support it and support these fine women here today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not. The question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. The junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in brief recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. Further unfinished business.
Senate Resolution 14 designating January 24th, 2020 as Corrections Day.
The senator from Wetzel County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, the committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution put upon its adoption.
Senator from Wetzel County requests unanimous consent that the resolution be taken up for immediate consideration, committee reference be dispensed with, and the resolution be placed upon its adoption. Is there objection? Chair hears none. The clerk will please read the resolution.
Senate Resolution 14 designating January 24th, 2020 as Corrections Day at the Capitol.
Question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. Is there discussion? The senator from Wetzel County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I've been working with the DMAPs and the Department of Corrections now for several years. When I was in the House, I was on that same committee, and I remain on that as a senator. And I have seen so much of what these wonderful corrections officers do and what they have to put up with. It's beyond your belief. I was given the figure the other day that last year there were 45,000 West Virginians booked into jails last year. Think about that. And a lot of these people come in there, they're hostile. And I was grateful to see that over the last few years, we began to get these corrections officers pay up to where they can make a living. And we're grateful for that as a body that you've done that. And I would hope that we continue to keep this, because I want to tell you, it's a difficult job, and we look at it. But they're dedicated people. And I just want to add to this statement, accepting the resolution today on behalf of her 4,000 co-workers and fellow corrections officers, Correctional Officer Evangeline Teedy from the Mount Olive Correction Center and Jail. Officer Teedy is being honored today for her courage, fortitude, and professionalism in the line of duty. Attacked by an inmate who twice punched her in the face, knocking her to the ground, Officer Teedy twice stood back up, held her ground, and maintained control until help arrived and she would be transported to a hospital. She suffered multiple facial fractures and other physical trauma, but was back on the job, undaunted and ahead of her medically projected return to work date. Officer Teedy was chosen to receive the resolution because she exemplifies the thousands of brave and tenacious men and women of corrections who, in an environment that can be intimidating, aggressive, and even hostile, put their lives and health at risk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to keep our communities and our inmate population safe and secure. Correctional staff provide a wide array of services to incarcerated individuals in recognition of the fact that the rehabilitation and reentry planning are also critical parts of the mission to increase public safety. The men and women joining us today are being honored for the exemplary performance in the multiple aspects of correctional service. The entire Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation community appreciates the honor bestowed upon them by today's resolution and collectively wishes to thank the Legislature for its continuing support and for the opportunity to shine a positive light on their professionalism and the men and women who dedicate themselves each and every day to protecting the safety and well-being of West Virginia citizens. This is important. We realize every day that we talk about corrections and what a drain it has been on county budgets and on our state budgets. And we're working to try to get some of these people out of jail that don't necessarily need to be there. And I salute Secretary Sandy for his hard work and his forward vision in moving our corrections and rehabilitation center forward. Mr. President, I urge adoption of the resolution.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion. The senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just very quickly to tag along in the words of the senator from Wetzel, I want to thank the current leadership for what is a philosophical shift towards the rehabilitation side of the equation, because a lot of what we do in here talks about the criminal side and the criminal laws, but over the years we have passed a lot of things that have allowed for corrections to look to ways to rehabilitate people so that we don't see them again. Because it's $27,000 or $28,000 a year that it costs to incarcerate an inmate if we get to the root cause of why they're there in the first place. And a large part of that is the drug problem that we face. We all know that. And if we can find a way to get over that while they're there in the care and custody of corrections, they're not going to see them again. And so as we chip away at the recidivism issue, the recidivism problem that we have, we'll continue to save state money, which is very important, but more importantly, we'll begin to save West Virginians and allow them to get out and be a productive member that we all talk about. So I do want to thank the leadership for the role that they have taken on in the rehabilitation of the people that they have had. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks? Further discussion? Not. Question before the Senate is adoption of the resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the resolution adopted. The junior senator from the 17th.
Mr. President, I move the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting the resolution.
Junior senator from the 17th moves that the Senate stand in brief recess for the purpose of presenting this resolution. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate in recess to present this resolution. Senate will please come to order. The Senate will please come to order. Is there further unfinished business?
No, sir.
Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 144, creating misdemeanor penalty for making materially false statement in course of misdemeanor investigation. Third reading of the bill.
The question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 144 amends a single section of the state code. It's Chapter 61, Article 5, Section 17, which is a statute sets forth offenses of obstructing an officer, fleeing from an officer, making false statements to an officer. Subsection C addresses false statements and the defining a misdemeanor penalty of not less than $25 no more than $200 or jail. The new language in subsection C provides that a criminal charge under this subsection relating to the investigation of a misdemeanor offense may not be used to seek or support a secure bond or pretrial incarceration. Be happy to try to answer any questions, Mr. President. Otherwise, I urge the passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? Not. Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? So the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, there being 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 311 relating to court-ordered community service. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? The senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 311 amends a single section of the code. It is in Chapter 62, Article 4, and Section 17. And it's clarifying, under the amendments to this section, clarifying that community service may be ordered by a municipal judge or a magistrate as a substitute for other sentences, and that it provides that a person who's sentenced to court-ordered community service is to be supervised by the chief of police for a municipality, and in magistrate court be supervised by the sheriff or a person designated by the county commission. And that's because we believe that in some counties, the county commission has designated community services officers outside of the sheriff's department. And then there's finally, the bill would add a new subsection which relates to the question of civil liability. And it says simply in subsection E that the bill does not create any additional cause of action for individuals who appear in municipal court or magistrate court or who participate in a court-ordered community service program. And those are all subject to whatever defenses, immunities, and limitations of liability that are provided by law already. Be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, I urge the bill's passage.
Is there further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, being 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 321 relating to collection of tax and priority of distribution of estate or property in receivership. Third reading of the bill.
Question before the Senate is, shall the bill pass? Is there discussion? Senator from Morgan County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senate Bill 321 is identical to a bill that we passed last year. It actually passed both houses of the legislature last year and was vetoed by the governor after we had adjourned. This bill relates to the priority of various creditors in connection with lien collections. And what it does is it clarifies reconcile statutes. We have statutes that give the state tax department lien priorities, taxation authority with respect to certain taxes, particularly sales tax. But what this bill does is it makes it clear that in terms of the liquidation of an asset, a foreclosure, lien priorities are determined by recordation in the county clerk's office. And there'd be no question after that. The order in which liens are recorded establishes the order in which creditors are paid when an asset is liquidated and there are outstanding liens or taxes. It makes it clear that the state tax department's liens are behind the liens of the United States government, the IRS. Be happy to try to answer any questions. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill.
Is there further discussion? Not, all those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? Every member voted. If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question being 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting, more than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Clerk will communicate the action of the Senate to the House. Are there further bills on third reading?
No, sir.
Bills on second reading?
Senate Bill 8, exempting certain armed forces veterans from payment of fees for license to carry deadly weapons. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 114, providing continued eligibility for developmental disability services to dependents of military veterans. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Not the bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 289, creating Green Alert Plan. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 303, enacting Students' Right to Know Act. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 357, authorizing Department of Revenue promulgate legislative rules. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 364, authorizing Department of Transportation promulgate legislative rules. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 468, relating to eligibility for license or permit applications. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 470, relating to use of crossbow to hunt. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 287, providing exception that all DNR payments be deposited within 24 hours.
Are there
Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 500, relating to Class Y special crossbow hunting permit. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 501, adding protection operation to North Bend Rail Trail, Greenbrier River Trail, and Elk River Trail to Parks and Recreation section of DNR. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 509, relating to custodial allocation actions independent of divorce. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Further bills on second reading?
No, sir.
Bills on first reading. Junior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that all bills on first reading be considered read a first time and advanced to second reading.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Bills be advanced. Introduction of guest. The Senator from Ohio County.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senator from Brooke County, I would like to recognize the 5th grade class from Wheeling Country Day School. They traveled down here from Wheeling this morning to see what it's like here in the Senate and here in the Capitol. They are joined by their teachers, Bridget Rutherford, Michael McDonald, and Joe Jividen. If you all could please stand and let the Senate make you feel welcome.
Further introductions. Further introductions. Remarks by members of the Senate. The Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. As many of you may notice on your desk today, there's an invitation to you to go with the West Virginia Jeep Club and tour the backcountry of Kanawha County. We did this last year and had a lot of fun, and I'm expanding it this year to include different state government employees. Delegate Evan Worrell and Delegate Gary Howell and myself are working in conjunction with the West Virginia Jeep Club to hold the 2020 Legislative Trail Ride Excursion. The event will be 1 week from tomorrow, Saturday, February 1st at 9:30 a.m. It will all begin near the Veterans Memorial on the West Virginia State Capitol grounds in the parking lot north of the Culture Center. The event will start off with a meet and greet that will last around an hour. The West Virginia Jeep Club will be providing door prizes, information, and rides for members of the legislature and all state government employees that have an effect on policy on outdoor recreation, as well as disabled veterans are invited. The West Virginia Jeep Club will provide a seat for ride along with one of their official members for an excursion into the backcountry of Kanawha County that will last until the afternoon. In addition to all members of the West Virginia Legislature being invited, their staff, joint staff, our federal delegation of legislators, their staff, disabled veterans, the DNR, the Development Office, Division of Tourism, Division of Forestry, Corps of Engineers, U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, all press, media, plus the registered lobbyists will all be invited to ride along. I've been involved with this hobby and industry my whole life, growing up with a family who belonged to a four-wheel drive club that was a family-based event, and every week, and is based in Huntington when I was just a child. But this event is being held to show the positive impact of recreational overlanding on the state of West Virginia. Not only economic value, but social value, and this hobby is an anti-drug of sorts. West Virginia needs to fully embrace this segment of recreation, and we scheduled this event to show our presence and let everyone know we have a voice. Every year, American consumers spend more on outdoor recreation, $887 billion, than on education, gasoline, fuels, household utilities, motor vehicles and parts, or pharmaceuticals. I got those figures from the Outdoor Recreation Institute. So I believe anything we can do to improve tourism, we need to make a difference. And we all know we've got the backcountry roads, some of us probably, and when we were young adults would go out in the hills of West Virginia in our pickup truck. And we all know these little areas that we can go and enjoy this type of recreation. But if you're from outside of this state and you look at any of our state websites or any of our U.S. federal land websites, and you can click on them, there is zero types of recreational trails like this for Jeeps. Many of the western states cater this, and even a lot of eastern states do. Michigan, Ohio, they all have a system. If you click on West Virginia, we have nothing. We know it's here. I've passed numerous bills. I've tried to get bills passed. I find opposition all the time, and you know, when I got here, I was so excited to get some stuff done to this in this state that, you know, wasn't taking advantage of this good opportunity, and never dreamed I would have pushback. You know, we've got Hatfield McCoy, and they do great work, and they're kind of regulated to nine counties with a little bit of expansion involved, but that's on private land. They are currently working on a public land project in Cowboy Lingo. I'm excited about that. It's supposed to be opening any day now, and I applaud them. But, you know, my goal is for taxpayers to be able to use their taxpayer land with the type of recreation that they prefer. Now, do I want these Jeeps to have a run of all public property? No. But I feel like all aspects of outdoor recreation should be catered to with these taxpayers. Now, if all the other states were like ours and nobody was doing anything, then you'd probably just leave well enough alone. But when every state almost, or at least half of them in the nation, have a good program like this, you know, we're just living in the past. And there's many things we can do, and many times when I talk about this on the floor, I feel like I've got one eye. People look at me like, what are you talking about? You know, nobody likes to take a $50,000 Jeep out in the woods, but these people do, and I've spoke about before, there's a new segment called overlanding where they have much more than $50,000 in their vehicle, and the people make six-figure salaries, and it's a big thing. And you know, we won't be setting a trend, but we'll at least be doing what a lot of states are doing. And I invite all of you, come out. You don't have to go with us out in the woods. And I know many of you go home on the weekends, but I just wanted to do this to show, hopefully, the potential that this has. We're going to be over here past the Culture Center and the metered parking near the Veterans Memorial. And a gentleman from Novak, the president, Dan Clean, he suggested that I invite the disabled veterans because with PTSD, getting out in the woods and, you know, seeing the beauty of our state, we're so blessed. We're the only state entirely within the Appalachian Mountains. And so whatever we do in one corner of the state works pretty well statewide. We're not these states that have such a varied terrain. So just give me a shot. You know, if I introduce legislation, I have this state's best interest at heart. I have no dog in the fight. I'm not going to try to profit from it in any way, but just to share my passion with this state and do what I know can make this state a better place and bring more people here and, you know, give these people with idle hands something to do, you know, a passion. It's a very expensive sport if you let it be, and hobby. So it's a good way to spend your disposable income and your disposable time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Further remarks? Senator from Jefferson County?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I'll just briefly add to what the senator from the 6th said. I got to go last year for my first time, and I had a great time. But what I wanted to just briefly talk about is today in Washington, D.C., there is the annual Pro-Life March, and thousands of people from all around the East Coast have descended there to, you know, march for life, as they've been doing ever since 1974, the year I was born. Of course, we all know Roe versus Wade got passed in 1973, and I think it's perfectly acceptable that today, especially on Women and Girls Day, that we remember that we still, in this country, allow for children to not make their chance to make a difference. And I just urge all to please say a prayer for those, that they be safe, that they get home back safe, and please keep them in your prayers and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Further remarks? Further remarks. Miscellaneous business, the junior senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pending announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until Monday at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? The senator from Morgan County.
Mr. President, your Committee on the Judiciary will have 2 meetings between now and our next convening of the Senate. We will meet today at 2:00 p.m. and we will meet on Monday morning at 10:00 a.m., both meetings in the Senate Judiciary Room 208 West Wing.
Further announcements. The senator from Brooke County.
Thank you, Mr. President. The intern committee will be meeting today at 1 o'clock in room 252 over on the House side. That's the Lewis McManus room. Thank you.
Further announcements. The senator from Wood County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Banking and Insurance will meet Monday at 2 p.m. in room 451A.
Further announcements. The senator from Upshur County.
President, your Committee on Natural Resources will meet 1 o'clock Monday, 208 West. Thank you.
Further announcements? Further announcements. Not the question before the Senate is, shall the Senate stand adjourned until Monday morning at 11 a.m.? All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the Senate adjourned until Monday at 11 a.m.